This video series explains how to create the cutting data by the Apparel CAD. In this video, we show pattern modifying with Pattern Magic 2. Pattern Magic 2 reads in DXF data received from other companies. You can modify it into data suitable for cutting. First, choose the data, and specify the data opening parameters. You can specify the size to load. This time, we will load in all sizes. Pattern Magic 2 allows you to set the color for each fabric category. As you can see, if you have set the front fabric to be displayed in yellow, the pieces of the front fabric will be displayed in yellow. The other fabric categories will also be displayed in the set color. Grading deployment data is displayed, overlapping each other. If you have difficulty seeing, you can display only the master size. The outermost blue line of each piece is the seam allowance line. Now let's check the seam allowance. To check, create a carbon copy layer. Select the seam allowance function. Information on the seam allowance will be displayed. This displayed seam allowance was created by estimating the width and shape of the imported DXF data. By clicking the seam allowance button, the seam allowance will be recreated with the current information. Let's check. The blue line is the current seam allowance line. The gray line is the original seam allowance line. As you can see, there are some gaps. The seam allowance creation method is different for each CAD manufacturer, so you cannot recreate it perfectly. Now we will modify them to be closer to the original shape. Match the height of the stitching points using the right angle shape. The shape is changed. Correct the shape of all pieces in the same way. While only the master size was displayed, the other sizes are also corrected. Let's see other sizes. Next, let's modify the seam allowance width. The seam allowance on the sides is 15 mm, so change it to 10 mm. Select the width from the panel and indicate the places, then the width is changed. You can also use the seam allowance check function. For example, it can highlight only 10 mm wide seam allowance. It makes it easier to discover mistakes and correct. Next, let's see a notch function. Notches are displayed in green. As you can see, you can create notches based on distance or line. You can change the shape of the notch. Let's change to convex notches. For this time, we have indicated the size of the notch, but you can register it in advance. You can change multiple notches at once. Next, let's create drill holes. Created the dart point. Specify the dart line each, then indicate the distance from the dart point to create it. Pocket's position can also be created by selecting the pocket line and the distance from it. Let's create cut lines. Make this line for cutting with the cutting machine. Select the line and change its line type to the cut line. Cut lines are shown in brown. Next, change the length of the garment. Use the Move function. Select the hems of all the lining pieces together, specify the length and execute. Move notches. With the Move Notch function, choose the notches to be modified, specify the distance to be moved and execute to move the selected notches. As the length has been changed, let's reprocess the seam allowance. Make the interlining pieces next. Take out the hem interlining. The pieces are followed by the mouse, so place them where you need so. The piece name and fabric category are changed. The gray line is the original outline. If you leave this line, you can regrade it. But you can remove the outline of the original pieces when take the piece out. Now, let's create an interlining for the facing piece. When you select a piece, the distance from the based piece is displayed. Change the distance from each line as required. Change the amount on the panel and indicate the point to be changed. Then, the distance is changed and a new interlining piece is created. You can delete unnecessary internal lines. Next, create the right piece of a front body. It can be created by copying the left piece, but if the only left front has the pocket, you need to delete it and the drill hole from the right piece. First, use the Move function to copy the left front body and use the Flip function to flip it on the axis of the grain line. Enlarge and check the front body. Use the Eraser function to delete the pocket and the drill holes. Next, modify piece information. Open the piece information panel and click on the piece. You can change the piece name, fabric category and number of pieces. This data will be used for marker making, so correct the left front body as well. So far, only the master size has been displayed, but previous operations are reflected on all sizes. Now, let's switch between the sizes and display them. All sizes are completed. Finally, confirm the design name and save. Thank you for watching this video. In the next video, we will continue this series and show you how to use marker making software to complete your cutting data.